Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Roman-style gnocchi. That's right, these don't look like gnocchi, which is okay because they don't taste like gnocchi either. But despite that, they are in fact a type of gnocchi, and an unbelievably delicious type at that. In fact, I'm going to make a bold prediction that once you see how easy these are to make, they will become your new favorite side dish. So despite the possibly confusing name, personally I would have called them whatever the Italian word for hockey puck is. But anyway, possibly confusing names aside, I am very excited to show you these. And we'll go ahead and begin with the star of the show, semolina, which kind of sort of looks like a fine-grained cornmeal, but it's actually made from durum wheat, and is probably best known for its use in pasta making. But as you're hopefully about to find out, it works amazingly well in these. And the first step in this process is to basically make a semolina porridge. And for that, we're going to use some milk that we pour into a saucepan, to which we will add some salt. And what we're going to want to do is bring this up to a simmer on medium-high heat. But this is not actually ever going to get to a real simmer, because what we're going to do as soon as bubbles just start to break the surface is go ahead and whisk in our semolina. And we probably don't want to just dump it all in. We will add it in a steady stream as shown. And fair warning, this is going to thicken up very quickly, especially since I use a little more semolina than most recipes. But anyway, we're going to whisk that in. And like I said, it's going to thicken up really quickly. In fact, check this out. As I was stirring, I decided to change the camera angle for no apparent reason. So I stopped and it went from this to this in literally 5 seconds. Which is fine. That's what we want. Because what we're going to do at this point is switch to a wooden spoon and turn our heat down to medium-low. And then what we'll do once our heat's lowered and we switch to a nice sturdy spoon is simply cook that stirring on medium-low for about 7 to 10 minutes. And I say 7 to 10 because virtually every recipe says 10 minutes. And yet I usually get tired of stirring around 7 minutes and stop, and it always works. So I guess we'll make that the range. And by the way, if you happen to be thinking, I would have just started with a wooden spoon. Well, you know what? That's a good thought, and an even better idea. But anyway, I never seem to remember to do that. And I always end up starting with the whisk and switching to the spoon. But regardless, like I said, once we're on medium-low, we will simply cook that for about 7 to 10 minutes, at which point if everything's gone according to plan, your semolina porridge should look something like this. And what we'll do once that's been accomplished is remove that from the heat and stir in the rest of the ingredients, which will include some cubed up cold butter, a whole bunch of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, and 2 egg yolks. And because that mixture is very hot and we don't want scrambled egg yolks, we'll go ahead and stir that vigorously until everything's combined. And I should mention a lot of recipes actually have you add the butter to the milk, but I think you get a better texture if you add it with the cheese and the yolks. But the one drawback, because that butter's sort of melting as you're mixing, is that it can make this a little trickier to combine. And at certain points it might look like it's separating, but don't worry, just like some of those cookie dough recipes we've done. Just keep mixing and eventually it will all come together beautifully. And if not and it kind of looks separated, just switch back to the whisk. And you really shouldn't have a problem. And then what we'll do as soon as that's been successfully combined is switch to a spatula and clean off that spoon before transferring that into a prepared pan. And by prepared, I just mean lined with some plastic wrap. And in case you're keeping score at home, that is your standard quarter sheet pan. So we'll go ahead and transfer that in and spread it out nice and evenly. But don't worry about getting the top perfectly smooth, because what we're going to do is take another piece of plastic wrap and place that over the top and sort of gently press it down and smooth it out. And that is pretty much it for the first phase of Roman-style gnocchi. Because all we have left to do is chill this until it's firm enough to cut, which I'm going to do in the fridge because it's faster. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in the fridge for about a half hour or so. And while we're waiting for that to firm up, we can go ahead and butter our baking dish. And today I'm going to be using this beautiful round French-style gratin dish, but any kind of casserole dish will work. So we'll go ahead and brush the bottom of that with butter. And then fast forward about a half hour later, at which point, as you'll see, our semolina porridge has firmed up nicely. So let's go ahead and unwrap that, as it is now officially ready to cut, which I like to do with a round biscuit cutter, because I enjoy what I'm told is the traditional circular shape. But if you do want to save a little time, you can just cut these in squares. These are really going to cook the same no matter what shape you make. But like I said, I do prefer the classic round. And I should mention, as you're doing these, do not discard the trimmings. Oh, we're going to use those in a second, as you'll see. So we'll go ahead and cut out our gnocchi and transfer those into our dish. And as you can see, I'm going to overlap those slightly. And then what we'll do once those are placed in is gather together all our trimmings. And then we'll simply wet our fingers and palms. And as you'll see, almost as if by magic, we're going to be able to smush all those scraps together. Ah, damp hands. Is there nothing they can't do? So as you can see, with a little bit of water on your hands, You should be able to press all those trimmings together, at which point we can flatten that out between 2 pieces of plastic, and we should be able to cut out 3 or 4 more. And while these certainly aren't going to be as perfect as the first batch, it still works perfectly fine, and once these are baked, they're going to look awesome. So we'll go ahead and make a few extra from those scraps and place those in, at which point we're going to top these with a generous amount of melted butter. Maybe even a very generous amount. So we'll go ahead and drizzle that over and brush that on. And then once that's been applied, we'll go ahead and finish this off with a little dusting of cayenne. No, your Roman friend is right. That is not traditional. But we usually don't let that stop us. And then last but not least, we will finish this off with some more freshly grated Parmesan. And not just any Parmesan. We definitely need to go with the Parmigiano Reggiano. And once that surface has been covered, as well as select parts of our kitchen towel, we are ready to bake. So let's go ahead and transfer that into the center of a 425-degree oven for about 25 minutes or until beautifully browned and basically looking like one of the greatest things you've ever seen come out of an oven. I mean, come on, look at that. And you might be wondering, those edges look crispy, but are they? Well, let's grab a fork and listen. Even over the sound of my oven fan, you could hear how crispy that is. Which for me is exactly why Roman-style gnocchi is so awesome. You get this incredible combination of that crispy, buttery outside, encasing that creamy, custardy inside. It's just unreal. And in addition to looking great, feeling great, and tasting great, this stuff's also amazingly versatile. Yes, of course it can be served as a side dish with some meatballs and maybe a salad. But it's equally spectacular as a first course, or a pasta course, or maybe even throw a wild mushroom sauce over this and do it as a main course. So many options. But of course that's up to you. You are the King George of your savory bake porridge. But this time I did go with it as a side dish for meatballs, which by the way were not very good. I didn't have time to make homemade and tried some from a new market down the street, and they weren't great. But I wasn't even mad, because these amazing gnocchi alla romana provided more than enough pleasure for the whole plate. It is just insanely good. But anyway, that's it, Roman-style gnocchi. Like I said in the intro, the name might throw you off a little bit, but give them a try anyway, because I really do think these are going to become one of your favorite side dishes, or main courses, or pasta courses. Well, you get the idea. So I really do hope you give these a try soon. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.